Chosen one, pause for a moment and breathe this in, because you are not here by accident. Heaven scheduled this encounter long before you pressed play, long before this title ever appeared on your screen. The Spirit of God marked this very second as a divine appointment with your name on it. Something in your spirit recognized the signal before your mind even understood why. Anointed one, hear this with the fullness of your faith. You are standing at the edge of a supernatural breakthrough. A shift is unfolding in the unseen. A divine wealth transfer, the very one spoken of in Proverbs 13:22 and echoed in James 5:3 and 4, is beginning to move. What once felt delayed is now accelerating. What felt withheld is now being released. Heaven is preparing to place into the hands of the righteous what the wicked stored up without understanding. This is not just information. This is prophecy. This is alignment. This is the unlocking of a season that has been hidden until now. Chosen one, steady your spirit, open your heart. What you are about to hear will activate something heaven planted inside you long ago. The atmosphere is shifting. The transfer has begun. Chosen one, lean in for a moment, because what I am about to share is not theory, not speculation, and not the kind of message you stumble upon by scrolling. This is one of those rare moments when heaven tugs on your spirit and says, pay attention. This part is for you. And as I speak, I want you to feel the weight of this truth. The things the 1% know, the things the spiritually awakened understand, the things the anointed discern long before the masses wake up. These things are not hidden from you. They are being revealed to you, not because you chased them, but because God chose you. I have traveled enough, met enough people, prayed through enough storms, and walked through enough midnight moments to recognize when heaven is allowing a curtain to be pulled back. And chosen one, that is exactly what is happening right now. You see, for years, the elite have been preparing, quietly building bunkers, establishing hidden safe zones, forming strategic networks, and positioning themselves for times the rest of the world pretends will never come. I have driven by those mountains, seen those silent fortresses carved deep into the earth. I have met people who speak in coded language because they know the masses cannot handle the truth. They build 7-level deep shelters in places like Hawaii, not because they fear the world ending, but because they understand cycles, patterns, and prophetic indicators. They study things the 99% ignore. And as strange as it sounds, the physical bunkers they build are only symbols of the spiritual preparation you, anointed one, are being called into right now. There is a reason your spirit has felt unsettled at times, a reason you have sensed the atmosphere shifting, a reason you can no longer shake that inner nudge telling you to get your house in order, not out of fear, but out of alignment. What the 1% understand is that seasons change whether we acknowledge them or not. And those who discern the shift early always rise while others scramble. Chosen one, you are not called to scramble. You are being positioned to rise. When I look back over my own life, I realize that every time God shifted me, it began with discomfort, not disaster, just a subtle stretching, a quiet whisper saying, prepare. And it always felt inconvenient. But later I would realize God was not preparing me for doom. He was preparing me for advantage, for protection, for elevation, for the kind of supernatural timing only heaven can orchestrate. The elite build physical strongholds, but your stronghold begins in the spirit. It is a place of alignment, of clarity, of divine positioning, and yes, eventually it manifests in practical decisions. Where you live, who you connect with, what you invest in, how you steward your relationships. But before it ever becomes physical, it starts with a shift in who you are becoming. That is why the great transfer of wealth, the one Proverbs 13:22 hints at, does not fall into the hands of everyone. It falls into the hands of those who have undergone an internal transformation. Not the loud, not the popular, the prepared. This is why, Anointed One, you must understand that wealth, true wealth, is never just money. Wealth is mindset, humility, discernment, relationship, honor, and spiritual sensitivity. I have watched people with resources collapse overnight because their mindset was fragile. And I have watched people with almost nothing rise into favor they never imagined because their spirit was aligned, their heart was humble, and their ears were tuned to heaven. That is why the 1% do not fear what is coming. They simply prepare for it. They value relationships deeply. They pay attention to alignment. They treat connections as divine opportunities rather than casual encounters. Many people pray for breakthrough, but ignore the very people God sends as keys to unlock that breakthrough. I have seen this repeatedly. God will place someone in a person's life, a mentor, a teacher, a partner, a door opener, and 99% will miss it because pain made them suspicious, ego made them guarded, or pride made them unteachable. But chosen one, your story is different. The fact that you are here listening, open, receptive, this is evidence of alignment already happening. Heaven can work with an open spirit. Heaven can move through a surrendered heart, and heaven always elevates those who value divine relationships. You must understand, Anointed One, that the judgment coming on systems, nations, and structures is not about destruction. It is about transition. When Israel faced its shaking, God still preserved a remnant. When the temple fell, God still guided his people. When nations shifted, God still provided Goshen for those who listened. And the same is unfolding now. Parts of the world will shake, systems will reset, economies will wobble, but those who are aligned spiritually will rise in the very season others fear. I say this not from theory, but from years of witnessing God's patterns. I have watched people prosper in recessions. I have seen families restored in chaos. I have seen doors open that should have stayed shut. And every time it was never because they had more money or connections. It was because they had alignment. Chosen one, you are being invited into that alignment right now. Not through fear, but through wisdom. Not through panic, but through preparation. Not through isolation, but through divine connection. And in this moment, heaven is whispering to you the same thing it whispered to me years ago. Become the person who can carry what I am about to release. Chosen one, as we step deeper into this word, I want you to sense the shift happening inside your spirit. There are moments in life when wisdom enters quietly, gently, almost like a soft breeze brushing past your soul. But there are also moments when revelation comes with weight, with gravity, with a holy insistence that says, pay attention. Now, this is one of those moments. Not because the message is alarming, but because it is awakening. And the truth is, the great divide between the 1% and the 99% has never been money. It has always been perception. It has always been the ability to recognize divine patterns, to read spiritual seasons, and to respond before the world understands what is happening. Anointed One, the elites understand something the masses often forget. Stability is an illusion, but positioning is a choice. They position themselves ahead of time so that when the winds shift, they do not panic, they elevate. They do not scatter, they strengthen. They do not fear the darkness, they prepare their lamps. And the Spirit of God is calling you into that same posture. Not a posture of fear, but a posture of readiness. Because heaven never reveals what is coming to frighten you. Heaven reveals what is coming to prepare you. I remember a time in my own life when everything looked stable on the outside. Doors were open, opportunities were flowing, and people were celebrating what they thought was a season of ease for me. But inside, my spirit felt uneasy, like the ground beneath me was shifting, even though my eyes could not yet see why. That is often how God speaks before a transition, not through thunder or earthquakes, but through a gentle stirring, a whisper that says, "Make room." Something is about to change. And every single time I listened, Every single time I moved with that inner nudge, I found myself not only protected, but positioned for blessing others missed. That is why you, chosen one, must understand what the 1% know. Discernment is more valuable than gold, recognition is more powerful than inheritance, and spiritual sensitivity is more life-changing than any financial strategy on earth. Most people wait for visible signs before they prepare. The spiritually awakened prepare when the signs are still invisible, because they understand that heaven always moves in seed form long before the harvest becomes obvious. This is why the prophetic warnings about blackouts, economic shifts, and global instability are not about panic. They are about positioning. The elite build bunkers, shelters, and escape zones in mountains and hidden regions because they know disruptions are inevitable. But you, anointed one, are being called to build something higher, a spiritual Goshen, a place of divine covering, clarity, and supernatural provision. And yes, in time, that spiritual preparation will influence your physical decisions, where you live, what you invest in, who you align with, and how you steward your resources. But it begins with your heart before it ever touches your hands. Too many people want the transfer without the transformation. They want the blessing without the becoming. They want the wealth, but not the wisdom. The door, but not the discipline. The promotion, but not the preparation. Yet, heaven's system does not operate like the world. God does not pour oil into cracked vessels. He rebuilds the vessel first. That is why your journey has been hard at times. That is why certain relationships fell away. That is why some opportunities shut down. It was not punishment. It was construction. It was heaven reshaping you so you could carry what the next season demands. Chosen one, if you have ever wondered why God did not let certain people stay in your life, it is because where you are going, not everyone can go. Some people attached themselves to your old season, but they were not equipped for your new one. Some voices would have contaminated your faith. Some relationships would have drained your strength. And heaven, in its mercy, removed them, not to isolate you, but to protect and elevate you. This is the inner work the 1% know well. They cultivate themselves quietly, long before anyone sees their results. They study, they listen, they align, they refine. They do not wait for the world to validate their preparation. They validate it through obedience and discipline. And this is the posture heaven is calling you into. Not perfection, but readiness. Not fear, but clarity. Not panic, but prophetic understanding. When you begin to shift internally your thoughts, your expectations, your associations, you will notice something powerful. Your atmosphere changes before your circumstances do. You begin seeing opportunities others overlook. You begin hearing God in ways you could not before. You begin feeling a supernatural calm even when the world shakes. That calm is not denial. It is alignment. It is the peace that comes from being exactly where heaven wants you to be. And chosen one, hear me. When heaven aligns you, elevation becomes effortless. Doors open without striving. Provision finds you without chasing. Connections appear that you did not force. This is what prepares you for the supernatural wealth transfer. Not fear, not survival, but alignment. Chosen one, as we continue, I want you to allow these words to settle into the deepest parts of your spirit. Because this season you are entering is not like any season you have walked through before. There is a reason heaven keeps nudging you. A reason the atmosphere around your life has been shifting. And a reason certain things no longer feel the way they used to. You are being moved quietly, but intentionally, into a place of divine positioning. And positioning is always the first step before God releases anything significant. It may feel like transition, like stretching, like unfamiliar ground beneath your feet. But in heaven's language, this is preparation. And preparation is the secret the 1% have always understood. They prepare before the masses react. They move quietly while others are distracted. They observe the signs while the world mocks them for overthinking. But the anointed know that the wise see danger ahead and take refuge, not out of fear, but out of discernment. You, chosen one, are being invited into that same level of spiritual foresight. You have already felt it, the uneasiness, the restlessness, the silent knowing that something is shifting. Not something to destroy you, but something that will expose where each person truly stands, spiritually, mentally, emotionally, and financially. This is why you must understand that the great transfer of wealth does not begin with money. It begins with mindset. It begins with clarity. It begins with learning to recognize what heaven is revealing instead of clinging to what the world is repeating. Right now, everything around you is being designed to distract the masses. News cycles that feed fear, sudden crises that spark panic, cultural narratives that keep people spiritually dull and emotionally reactive. But you, anointed one, are being awakened. You are starting to see beyond the surface. You are sensing that the shaking is not against you. It is creating space for you. And let me tell you something from experience. Before God ever trusts a person with influence, responsibility, or abundance, He brings them through a season of recalibration. This is the time when He removes the voices that confuse you, the habits that drain you, and the environments that limit you. It never feels comfortable, but is always purposeful. I have had seasons when everything familiar seemed to fall apart, and I thought I was being punished. Only later did I realize I was being repositioned. Heaven was not taking things from me. It was clearing the path ahead. Chosen one, think back on your own life. Have you not noticed that the moments that felt like loss often led to clarity? The relationships that ended were protecting you. The opportunities that slipped away were making room for something better. The delay was developing your discernment. If you pay close attention, you will see that heaven has been guiding you long before you recognized it. Every closed door was a redirection. Every disappointment was a recalibration. Every lonely night was training you to hear God's voice without the noise of others drowning it out. This is why the 99% miss the transfer. They interpret every shaking as punishment. But the 1% interpret shaking as alignment. They understand that when God is about to elevate someone, He first separates them from what would sabotage the blessing. That is what has been happening to you, anointed one. You are not losing. You are being refined. You are not being left behind. You are being singled out. And let me say this plainly. You must resist the urge to compare your journey to others. Many people around you may seem stable right now, but stability built on shallow ground collapses quickly. What heaven is doing in you is deeper, quieter, and stronger. Your foundation is being reinforced so that when the transfer unfolds, and it will, you will not only receive, but sustain what others will mishandle. You see, the elite prepare because they know that chaos exposes what is weak and elevates what is strong. And spiritually, the same principle applies. When circumstances get dark, those who walk in divine wisdom shine brightest. The blackout, the instability, the shifts in global systems, these are not meant to intimidate you. They are meant to reveal you. The light within you will contrast the confusion around you. The peace inside you will separate you from the panic in others. The clarity you carry will make you a source of stability to those who ignored you before. And this is where the supernatural begins to intertwine with the practical. As you shift internally, you will notice heaven guiding your steps externally. You will begin to sense what to invest in, what to walk away from, who to connect with, and where your Goshen is meant to be. Not out of fear, but out of divine instinct. The same instinct Noah felt when he built the ark before rain existed. The same instinct Joseph carried when he stored grain before famine appeared. The same instinct the 1% operate by today. Heaven is awakening that instinct in you, chosen one. And let me share something personal. Most of my breakthroughs did not happen during peaceful seasons. They came when everything looked unstable. When others worried, I listened. When others rushed, I waited. When others followed the crowd, I followed the whisper. And that whisper has never failed me. It will not fail you either. You are learning to trust that whisper now. You are learning to walk by spiritual sight, not natural sight. And that is the posture required for the wealth transfer. Only the prepared will touch it. Chosen one, as we move deeper into this revelation, I want you to feel the steadiness that is beginning to rise within you. There is a peace forming underneath the surface of your spirit. Even if your circumstances have not yet shifted, that peace is not natural. It is prophetic. It is the sign that heaven is preparing you for a transition that does not depend on the stability of this world. The 1% understand this well. They never wait for external confirmation to take internal action. They prepare when others laugh. They align when others ignore. They move when others hesitate. And heaven is calling you into that same flow of discernment, not because you are supposed to imitate the wealthy, but because you are being shaped into someone who can carry what God is about to release. Anointed one, you must understand something essential. The shaking you see in the world is not random. It is not accidental. It is not a coincidence that systems are wobbling, institutions are showing cracks, and nations are revealing their fragility. When God begins shifting the balance of wealth, influence, and authority, He always begins by exposing the weakness of what was falsely considered strong. That is how heavenly transfers work. The structure collapses for the unprepared, but it opens pathways for the surrendered. And you, chosen one, are being conditioned to walk those pathways with confidence instead of fear. Let me give you a truth. I have learned through years of spiritual battles, unexpected breakthroughs, and seasons where only God could sustain me. When heaven wants to elevate you, it first removes your dependency on anything that cannot carry you into the next season. This is why many people misinterpret divine pruning as loss. But pruning is not loss. Pruning is positioning. It is God cutting away what was draining you, limiting you, or slowing your growth, even if you were emotionally attached to it. And although pruning feels painful in the moment, it is always purposeful in the long run. I have never lost anything in a pruning season that I actually needed for where God was taking me. Never. Not one thing. This is why you cannot cling to the familiar right now, anointed one. The familiar is too small for where you are going. The familiar cannot contain the version of you that is emerging. You may not see it yet, but your spirit has already expanded. There are things you used to tolerate that now feel heavy. Voices you once entertained now feel distracting. Environments you once blended into now feel suffocating. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It is a sign that something is awakening. Your identity is catching up to your calling. And this awakening is crucial for the wealth transfer heaven is preparing. Because the truth is, financial blessing without spiritual maturity becomes bondage. Favor without discernment becomes sabotage. Opportunity without identity becomes confusion. But when your inner structure is aligned, your mindset, your humility, your discernment, your faith, then every blessing that enters your life strengthens you instead of drowning you. That is why God is doing this work inside you first. Before the door opens, He is fortifying your foundation. Before the increase manifests, He is cleansing your motives. Before the breakthrough arrives, He is sharpening your discernment. Chosen one, you must also understand the role of relationships in this next season. The 1% thrive not because of isolation, but because of alignment. They treat relationships as strategic, sacred, and influential. They understand that one connection can change everything. And heaven uses the same principle. In every major shift I have ever experienced, God sent a person before. He sent a blessing, a mentor, a helper, a stranger, a divine appointment. Sometimes the person did not look important. Sometimes the encounter felt ordinary at first, but later I realized that everything changed because of that one relationship. This is the part where many people stumble. They pray for favor but reject the vessel that carries it. They cry out for breakthrough but push away the person God sends to trigger it. They want elevation, but they cling to familiarity because it feels safe. Yet the wealth transfer will be unlocked through divine alignment, doors opening through relationships that God Himself orchestrates. And you, anointed one, must stay sensitive, because heaven is going to bring people into your life who carry keys you did not even know you needed. Another truth the 1% understand is this. When big shifts come, they come suddenly, slowly at first, then all at once. That is why preparation must happen before the shift is visible. When Joseph interpreted Pharaoh's dream, the famine had not yet arrived. When Noah built the ark, rain had not yet fallen. When Elijah declared abundance, the sky was still empty. Preparation always precedes manifestation, and the same will be true for you. Your obedience today will protect your tomorrow. Your spiritual readiness now will become the foundation for your elevation later. You are not preparing for fear. You are preparing for inheritance. And chosen one, let this settle deeply. You are being groomed for a level of influence and authority that would overwhelm the old version of you. But the new you, the one being shaped right now, will carry it with grace, with wisdom, and with spiritual maturity. You are learning to listen differently, see differently, respond differently. This is the real work of the transfer, the internal construction before the external release. Chosen one, let your spirit settle as we continue, because what comes next is meant to flow into you like living water, steady, clear, undeniable. There are moments in life when revelation does not arrive with thunder, but with a gentle yet irresistible pull, drawing you into deeper understanding. This is one of those moments. And as you receive these words, I want you to feel heaven aligning your inner world with a clarity you may not have had before. You are not simply learning, you are transforming. You are not merely hearing, you are awakening. You are being shaped for something the world is not prepared for, but you are. Anointed one. The truth is that the 1% walk differently because they think differently. They walk with a sense of direction, even when the path ahead appears uncertain. They carry peace in seasons of shaking because their preparation started long before the shaking began. And now heaven is training you in that same dimension, not to make you fearful, but to make you ready. Because a wealth transfer without readiness becomes a burden, but a wealth transfer with spiritual maturity becomes a divine assignment. For years I did not understand why God would allow my life to be stripped down, reshaped, or redirected. Sometimes it felt like loss. Other times it felt like confusion. But later I discovered that every uncomfortable shift was actually God upgrading my discernment. It was never about what I lost. It was about who I became. And chosen one, the same is unfolding in you now. You may feel like certain things are being removed, but heaven is actually making space for what is coming. You may feel stretched, but that stretching is expanding your capacity. You may feel isolated, but that isolation is refining your hearing. Every part of this journey is intentional. The 99% resist discomfort. The 1% recognize it as a signal. That is why you cannot afford to misinterpret this season. What feels heavy now is not a sign of defeat. It is a sign of divine construction. Heaven is breaking old mindsets that cannot carry wealth. Heaven is healing emotional wounds that would sabotage new opportunities. Heaven is removing voices that would mislead you. Heaven is strengthening your discernment so you can distinguish between distractions and destiny. Nothing in your life right now is random. Even the pressure has purpose. And this leads us to a crucial truth. Wealth, true wealth, is not given to those who seek money. It is given to those who seek purpose. When you begin aligning with God's purpose, provision follows. When you become trustworthy in the unseen, heaven entrusts you with what is meant to be seen. When you walk in obedience, opportunities begin to magnetize toward you. The world calls it luck. Heaven calls it alignment. Chosen one, another key the 1% understand is this: environment shapes destiny. This is why they build communities, networks, and alliances. They do not rise alone. They rise through alignment. And the Spirit of God is highlighting your environment in this season. You may have noticed certain people drifting away, or your spirit feeling unsettled in places you used to feel comfortable. That is heaven redirecting you. You cannot stay in an environment where your spirit is suffocating and your calling is shrinking. To carry the blessing that is coming, you must be surrounded by people who speak life, not fear, vision, not doubt, purpose, not excuses. Think back to moments when your spirit felt alive, when conversations ignited ideas, when the presence of certain people stirred something divine within you. Those moments were not coincidences. They were indicators. Heaven was showing you what alignment feels like. And in the same way, those heavy, draining, or confusing connections were warning signals that your spirit was outgrowing the space. There is a spiritual principle here. God upgrades your circle before He upgrades your season. Not out of elitism, but out of protection. The wrong voices can choke the seed God planted in you. The wrong environment can suffocate your anointing. And the wrong relationships can delay what heaven wants to fast track. So if you feel heaven pulling you away from certain people or habits, surrender quickly. The faster you release, the faster God replaces. Anointed one, let me share something personal. In one season of my life, God removed almost everyone I thought I needed. I felt alone, confused, uncertain. But in that quiet space, I heard God's voice more clearly than ever. And slowly He brought new relationships, people who carried wisdom, favor, and divine alignment. People who spoke destiny instead of fear. People who saw me not as I was, but as I was becoming. That shift changed everything, and that is what heaven is preparing for you now. Do not resist the transition. The people heaven is preparing to bring into your life will not drain you, they will elevate you. They will not question your anointing, they will confirm it. They will not compete with your calling, they will strengthen it. And through those relationships, doors will open that no amount of striving could ever unlock. All of this is part of the preparation for the supernatural transfer. Before wealth comes wisdom, before opportunity comes obedience, before elevation comes alignment, and before manifestation comes transformation. Chosen one, heaven is transforming you now. Chosen one, as we continue into this next part, let your heart open even wider. Because what heaven is revealing to you is not merely information. It is impartation. There are seasons in a believer's life when God does not just speak to them, He speaks into them. And that is what this moment is becoming for you. You may not fully grasp it, you may not yet see the full picture forming, but your spirit knows something is shifting, something is aligning, something is awakening inside you that is bigger than any struggle you have faced and stronger than any opposition that tried to break you. Anointed one, understand this truth. The 1% are not powerful because of what they own. They are powerful because of what they know. And heaven is now transferring that knowledge into your spirit. Not the world's version of knowledge, but divine understanding, spiritual instincts that allow you to move with heaven's timing while the world is still asleep. This is why you have been sensing a pull, a stretching, a quiet stirring deep inside your spirit. You are being prepared to operate at a higher frequency, a higher clarity, a higher level of discernment. And preparation always feels like disruption before it feels like elevation. I need you to hear this with sober clarity. Your sensitivity is not a weakness. It is a sign of spiritual maturity. The things that make others panic do not shake you in the same way. The situations that break others only sharpen you. The storms that make others retreat push you into deeper alignment. That inner sensitivity, that ability to detect spiritual atmospheres, that awareness of subtle shifts, these are gifts heaven has sharpened inside you for such a time as this. You are not fragile. You are finely tuned. You are not overwhelmed. You are spiritually awake. This is why you feel deeply. This is why transitions affect you strongly. This is why your spirit reacts before your mind understands. Heaven wired you this way because you are being prepared to steward something bigger than yourself. The 99% numb themselves, distract themselves, and silence their instincts. The 1% lean into them. They listen, they adjust, they move with precision. And chosen one, you are learning to do the same. This is part of the internal upgrade heaven is giving you. Another truth the 1% embraces this. Stability is not found in circumstances. Stability is found in clarity. And clarity is exactly what heaven is releasing over you. Look at your life carefully. Have you not noticed that the things which once confused you no longer have the same power? Have you not noticed that you see people differently now, more clearly, more truthfully? Have you not noticed that situations that once overwhelmed you now feel lighter? That is not coincidence. That is spiritual refinement. Heaven has been sharpening your sight, strengthening your discernment, and maturing your understanding. This growing clarity will be essential in the season of transfer because not every opportunity will be divine, and not every door will be meant for you. Some doors will be traps, some opportunities will be distractions, and some connections will be counterfeits disguised as blessings. But with the clarity God is giving you, you will not be deceived. Your spirit will detect what your eyes cannot yet see. Your discernment will speak before your emotions react. And this will protect you from alignments that would sabotage your destiny. Chosen one, let me share a personal truth. There were seasons when I thought the enemy was attacking me, but in reality, heaven was protecting me. A closed door felt like rejection, until later I realized it saved me. A lost opportunity felt like disappointment until I learned it was divine redirection. A severed relationship felt like heartbreak until heaven revealed what that person was carrying. Many times the delay I resented was actually the mercy I did not yet understand. And if you look back on your life, you might begin to see the same pattern. What you thought was loss was protection. What you thought was failure was redirection. What you thought was isolation was consecration. Heaven has been guiding you with precision, and now you are stepping into a season where that guidance becomes even clearer. The 1% pay attention to patterns. The spiritually awakened pay attention to God's patterns. Patterns are the language of heaven. Repeated nudges, repeated dreams, repeated signs, repeated discomforts. When heaven is trying to speak, the message does not come once, it comes consistently. And you, anointed one, have been sensing these patterns. Something inside you has been saying, pay attention. This is not random. And you are right, the patterns in your life are aligning with something bigger. That inner stirring is not anxiety. It is activation. That pull you feel is not restlessness. It is preparation. That sense that something is coming is not fear. It is foresight. The same foresight God gave those who built wisely before the shaking began. The same foresight Joseph carried in Egypt. The same foresight Noah carried in his generation. Heaven is giving you foresight not to frighten you, but to position you. And this is where the supernatural meets the practical. What heaven is awakening in your spirit will soon begin guiding your decisions. You will know when to move, when to stay, when to speak, when to remain silent. You will know which doors to walk through and which to close forever. Your discernment is becoming sharper than your fear. Your spirit is rising above your emotions, and your steps are becoming synchronized with heaven's timing. Chosen one, this is your becoming. This is your preparation. Heaven is shaping you into a vessel that can carry wealth, wisdom, and influence without being shaken by them. And the work God is doing inside you is only the beginning. Chosen one, as we continue this journey, I want you to feel the strength that is quietly forming inside your spirit. There is a divine steadiness rising within you, a groundedness that does not come from circumstances, but from calling. You are beginning to stand differently, not because life has suddenly become easier, but because heaven has been building a foundation inside you that can no longer be shaken by what shakes the world. This kind of inner strength is rare. It is the kind of strength the 1% cultivate intentionally. But in your case, heaven has been cultivating it through every hardship you have endured, every shift you have survived, and every moment you refused to give up, even when you did not understand why the battle felt so heavy. Anointed one, many people look at the wealthy, the powerful, the influential, and they assume their advantage comes from money. But their real advantage comes from structure. Internal, emotional, spiritual structure. Money only amplifies what structure already exists. This is why heaven has been building your structure long before the blessing arrives. There were seasons when you felt stretched beyond your limits, but that stretching was expanding your capacity. There were moments when life felt like a test you did not sign up for, but those tests were strengthening your resilience. There were times when you wondered why you had to fight battles others never faced, but those battles were refining your character and sharpening your discernment. And now you're beginning to realize something important. Everything you went through was preparation, not punishment. Preparation. Heaven was shaping you into someone who could carry weight without collapsing, responsibility without resentment, influence without corruption, and blessing without losing your soul. You have been processed like gold in the fire, purified through pressure and elevated through endurance. You may not have recognized it at the time, but every tear watered the soil of the future you are stepping into now. This is why you sense a divine shift. It is not your imagination. It is activation. When heaven prepares someone for a supernatural assignment, the preparation often feels like isolation, not because you are being abandoned, but because God is removing the noise around you so you can hear Him clearly. The 99% fill themselves with distraction. The 1% lean into silence. And you, chosen one, have been learning to be comfortable in the quiet. Because in the quiet, your spirit becomes sharp. In the quiet, your purpose becomes clearer. In the quiet, heaven speaks louder. Another truth the 1% understand is this: the future is built long before it is seen. And that is exactly what heaven is doing with you. Long before the transfer manifests, God builds the vessel. Long before the opportunity appears, He shapes the character. Long before the increase arrives, He strengthens the foundation. This is why it sometimes feels like nothing is happening, when in reality everything is happening beneath the surface. Let me share a personal moment with you. There was a season in my life when everything seemed still. No breakthroughs, no open doors, no dramatic signs. Just silence. I questioned the silence. I resisted it at times. But later I understood that heaven was not ignoring me. Heaven was equipping me. When the breakthrough finally came, I realized that without that silent season, I would not have had the wisdom to handle what God placed in my hands. The waiting was not wasted. It was necessary. And chosen one, your waiting is not wasted either. This is also why certain patterns in your life have been repeating. Because heaven is teaching you mastery, not survival. The wealthy understand mastery. They do not just seek results. They seek understanding. They study cycles, seasons, and patterns. They look for what others overlook. And spiritually, God is training you in the same dimension. When He allows similar tests to come again, it is not because you failed. It is because you are being perfected. Each time you respond with more wisdom, more clarity, more strength. Each time, the reaction of your spirit becomes more aligned with heaven and less influenced by fear. Chosen one, pay attention to what no longer triggers you the way it used to. Pay attention to how you respond differently now. Pay attention to the peace you carry in moments that once created panic. That is growth. That is spiritual mastery. Heaven is not just preparing you to receive wealth. It is preparing you to sustain it, protect it, multiply it, and use it for divine purpose. Because the coming transfer is not merely a financial event. It is a reordering of influence, a repositioning of authority, a shifting of resources from the hands of those who misuse them into the hands of those who will steward them with integrity. This is why your spirit cannot return to old patterns. You cannot shrink back into who you were. You cannot adopt the mindset of the 99%. You have been chosen for more. You are being shaped for more. And heaven is not letting you settle for anything less than the fullness of what was written over your life. Chosen one, as we move into this next part, I want you to let every word wash over you like a wave of revelation, because heaven is still speaking, still shaping, still preparing you for a season that will not resemble anything you have lived through before. There's a depth unfolding inside you, a maturity rising from the very places where you once felt weak, and a confidence emerging from battles you thought would break you. This is not random. This is not accidental. This is the spiritual architecture of heaven being built within you, piece by piece, layer by layer, until you become the vessel strong enough to hold the blessing assigned to your name. Anointed one, one of the greatest secrets the 1% understand is this: your internal world determines the structure of your external world. They know that your mindset becomes your magnet, that your beliefs create your boundaries, that your inner patterns manifest into outer realities. That is why so many people, even when given opportunities, resources, or open doors, end up losing what they were handed. They try to carry abundance with a scarcity mentality. They try to build new futures with old wounds. They try to step into elevation with a heart still anchored to insecurity. But heaven is protecting you from that fate. That is why your inner world has been undergoing such intense transformation. Heaven is cleansing old belief systems, healing hidden fractures, and dismantling subconscious patterns that would sabotage the blessing before it fully manifests. This is why your spirit feels different now. You are thinking more clearly. You are questioning things you once accepted. You are noticing behaviors you once overlooked. You are sensing dishonor faster, recognizing manipulation sooner, detecting spiritual danger quicker. That is not paranoia. It is discernment. Heaven has been sharpening your instincts so you can navigate the coming season with wisdom instead of fear. The 99% move impulsively. The 1% move intentionally. Heaven is teaching you intention. And intention is vital because every major divine move begins with awareness. When God wanted to elevate Joseph, he first awakened his awareness through dreams. When he wanted to lead Moses, he awakened him through a burning bush. When he wanted to raise Gideon, he awakened him through an angelic visitation. Awareness comes before assignment. And the awareness happening inside you right now is heaven's way of signaling that your season is turning, your capacity is enlarging, and your purpose is unfolding. Maybe you have felt an unusual urgency in your spirit lately, an urgency to shift, to grow, to prepare, to let go, to listen. That urgency is not anxiety. It is heaven aligning your spirit with the timing of your calling. When the timing of heaven accelerates, the spirit of the chosen becomes alert. You feel it before you see it. You sense it before it manifests. That inner sense that something is coming is not imagination. It is preparation. And here's a truth the 1% never overlook. The future belongs to those who prepare for what others ignore. They watch global patterns, shifting systems, economic warnings, geopolitical movements, not to live in fear, but to position themselves wisely. Spiritually, heaven is calling you to do the same, not from a place of panic, but from a place of prophetic intelligence. You do not need to build a bunker, chosen one. You need to build wisdom. You need to build character. You need to build discernment. You need to build spiritual intimacy, because when the world trembles, wisdom becomes wealth. When systems collapse, discernment becomes currency. When people lose direction, those who carry clarity become leaders. Let me share another moment from my own journey. There was a time when everything around me seemed chaotic. People were panicking, decisions were reckless, and fear was spreading. In that moment, heaven whispered to me, "Look beyond the noise." And when I did, I realized that the noise was only a distraction. Beneath it, doors were opening, opportunities were forming, alignments were being orchestrated. What looked like crisis was actually transition. And those who had ears to hear and eyes to see walked into elevation while the world crumbled in confusion. That season taught me a truth I never forgot. Crisis does not determine your destiny. Your response to it does. Chosen one, you are being trained to respond differently, not with fear, but with foresight, not with panic, but with purpose, not with emotion, but with spiritual intelligence. This is why heaven has been pruning your circle, sharpening your instincts, and deepening your inner strength. You are being shaped into someone who can rise when others fall, discern when others are deceived, and hear God clearly when the world is drowning in noise. And this is essential, because the supernatural transfer God is orchestrating will require a level of spiritual maturity and emotional stability that very few people possess. Wealth is coming, but not to the careless. Influence is coming, but not to the impulsive. Opportunity is coming, but not to the easily swayed. Heaven is preparing you so you will not just receive, but sustain, not just gather, but multiply. Not just influence, but steward with integrity and purpose. Anointed one, you are not being prepared for a moment. You are being prepared for a mantle. And heaven is making sure that when the mantle falls upon you, you will be ready to carry it. Chosen one, as we move into this next part, let your spirit remain open and steady, because what heaven is depositing into you now reaches deeper than information. It touches identity. There is a part of your destiny that only awakens when you begin to see yourself through God's eyes, not through the limitations of your past or the opinions of those who never understood your calling. And whether you realize it or not, that awakening is happening to you right now. You are not being inspired. You are being transformed. You are not simply hearing a message. You are being repositioned for a future that requires a different version of you, a higher version of you, a wiser, more aligned, more spiritually attuned version of you. Anointed one, many people desire elevation, but very few prepare themselves for what elevation demands. They want influence without discipline. They want abundance without self-awareness. They want authority without responsibility. They want to be chosen, but they do not want to be changed. And this is where you must understand something crucial. The reason your journey has been difficult, the reason your process has been intense, the reason your growth has been stretching is because heaven is not preparing you for an ordinary life. Heaven is preparing you for a mantle, one that requires deep stability, profound discernment, and unwavering character. You may have wondered why God did not allow you to remain comfortable in certain seasons, why He kept nudging you out of environments you once tolerated, why certain friendships dissolved, why certain habits became too heavy to carry, why the things you used to enjoy no longer fed you spiritually. These shifts were not happening because you did something wrong. They were happening because heaven was elevating you. And elevation always requires separation. Not separation from people and arrogance, but separation from mindsets, cycles, and environments that cannot accompany where God is taking you next. This is one of the deepest principles the 1% understand. Identity always precedes destiny. Who you believe you are determines what you think you deserve. What you think you deserve determines what you pursue, and what you pursue determines what you receive. Most people sabotage their future before it even begins, not because they are unworthy, but because they never believed they were capable of holding what heaven wanted to give them. They prayed for blessing but lived with a mindset of limitation. They asked for open doors but could not walk through them because their identity was still tied to who they used to be. But you, chosen one, are changing. Heaven has been breaking old identities off you. The identity shaped by trauma, the identity shaped by lack, the identity shaped by rejection, the identity shaped by the opinions of people who were never qualified to define you. Every battle you survived rewrote something inside you. Every moment you kept going rewired your spirit. Every tear you shed watered the seed of who you are becoming. When you look in the mirror now, you may not fully see the transformation yet, but heaven does. And heaven is preparing to match your internal growth with external elevation. This is why your spirit has been more sensitive lately, why you feel drained around certain people, why you crave silence, clarity, and deeper connection with God, why your old ways of coping no longer satisfy you. These are signs that heaven is raising your frequency. Your spirit is being tuned. Your discernment is being sharpened. Your identity is being rebuilt. You are becoming the kind of person who can carry wealth without worshiping it, influence without abusing it, opportunity without wasting it, and responsibility without collapsing under it. Chosen one, another truth the 1% embraces this. You cannot build a new life with the tools of an old version of yourself. The habits that sustained your past cannot sustain your future. The mindset that helped you survive cannot help you ascend. The emotional patterns that once protected you will suffocate you if you carry them into this next season. That is why heaven has been fronting certain behaviors in your life, not to condemn you, but to free you, not to shame you, but to strengthen you. Heaven is not in the business of punishing the chosen. Heaven is in the business of preparing them. Let me share something from my journey. There was a time when I held tightly to an old version of myself because it felt familiar. I resisted change because I feared the unknown. I clung to relationships because I did not want to lose the comfort they brought, even if they were limiting my growth. But every time I resisted, I delayed what heaven was trying to release. It was not until I surrendered fully, deeply, without negotiation, that everything began to shift. Opportunities appeared. Clarity increased. Favor multiplied, and alignment became my new normal. The moment I changed internally, everything around me changed externally. Anointed one, this same shift is forming in you. You may not see the full evidence yet, but heaven sees it clearly. Your identity is rising. Your capacity is expanding. Your atmosphere is changing. You are becoming the person who can not only receive the supernatural transfer, but steward it, multiply it, and transform lives through it. You are not who you were. You are becoming who you were always meant to be. Chosen one, as we continue into this next part, I want you to breathe slowly and let your spirit absorb what heaven is unveiling. You are not just listening to words. You are stepping into a deeper layer of understanding about who you are, what you carry, and why your journey has never looked like the journey of those around you. There's a divine uniqueness to your path. And the more heaven draws you into alignment, the more clearly you begin to realize that nothing about your life has been random. Every season, every battle, every moment of confusion, every late-night prayer, and every time you felt overlooked or misunderstood has been part of a precise and intentional preparation. And now the Spirit of God is awakening in you the identity, the confidence, and the discernment required for what is coming next. Anointed one, the 1% understands something that the majority never grasps. The right internal posture makes external elevation inevitable. They know that the world does not respond to effort alone. It responds to alignment, clarity, and authority. And spiritually, heaven has been cultivating those very qualities in you. You may not have recognized it, but every time you refused to break under pressure, every time you walked away from something that no longer served your spirit, every time you chose healing over bitterness, and every time you kept your heart open, even after being wounded, you were being shaped. You were developing spiritual authority. You were being forged into someone heaven can trust. This is why your process has been different. Others around you may live casually, drifting through life with no sense of urgency, no sense of calling, no awareness of the times. But you cannot. Your spirit will not let you. Even when you tried to be like everyone else, something inside you resisted. You could not settle. You could not fake peace. You could not silence the inner voice that kept calling you higher. That inner tension was a sign of your anointing. It was heaven reminding you that you were never meant to blend in with the masses. You were being prepared for leadership, for influence, for responsibility, for spiritual authority. And now, the more heaven awakens you, the more you begin to see through illusions that used to deceive you. You see motives more clearly. You detect dishonor faster. You sense spiritual danger before it manifests. You recognize opportunities that others overlook. You understand the difference between what looks good and what is truly aligned. This level of clarity is not common. It is the fruit of your process. It is the sign that heaven has been sharpening you in secret. Many people mistake your sensitivity for overthinking. But the truth is, your sensitivity is your gift. Your discernment is your protection. Your intuition is your spiritual antenna, and heaven is elevating it intentionally. Chosen one, you must understand another critical truth. The supernatural transfer heaven is preparing is too significant to be placed into unprepared hands. God will never pour abundance into a vessel that is cracked, divided, or unstable. That is why your healing mattered. That is why your inner work mattered. That is why your pruning mattered. Heaven has been strengthening your vessel so that when the blessing arrives, it will not destroy you. It will empower you. It will flow through you. It will multiply in your hands instead of slipping through your fingers. Many people want the promise, but refuse the process. They want sudden elevation without gradual preparation. They want divine increase without internal discipline. But you, anointed one, have embraced the process even when you did not understand it. You kept walking. You kept believing. You kept surrendering. And that surrender has positioned you for what the 99% will miss. Another principle the 1% live by is this: your future requires an upgraded version of you. They constantly evolve. They constantly adapt. They constantly grow beyond comfort. Spiritually, heaven is calling you to the same level of evolution. You cannot walk into your next season with the mindset of your last one. You cannot build your future with the habits of your past. You cannot carry a mantle with the emotional patterns that once kept you bound. That is why heaven keeps stretching you, because your next season requires a version of you that fears nothing, clings to nothing but purpose, and depends on nothing but divine guidance. Let me share another personal truth. I once resisted a season of stretching because it felt like too much. I felt overwhelmed, unprepared, uncertain. But later I realized that heaven was making me into someone I did not yet recognize. And when the breakthrough finally came, it fit me perfectly. Not the old me, but the transformed me. Had the blessing arrived too early, I would have mishandled it. But because it came at the right time, I could carry it with wisdom, stability, and gratitude. Anointed one, you are being transformed into the version of yourself that can hold what heaven is preparing. The fear is falling off, the doubt is dissolving, the timidity is disappearing, the confusion is clearing, and your spirit is rising into alignment with your calling. You are stepping into a higher dimension, not by accident, but by divine design. Chosen one, as we continue, Let the word settle deep into the places within you that rarely receive light, because heaven is now illuminating territories of your soul that were once hidden, once wounded, or once misunderstood. You are not just stepping into revelation, you are stepping into recognition. Recognition of who you are, recognition of what you carry, recognition of the destiny that has been quietly forming inside you while life was shaping, pruning, stretching, and refining you. And whether you realize it or not, this recognition marks the beginning of a new era in your journey, an era where the internal becomes visible, where what was planted begins to bloom, and where the heavens respond to your maturity with divine manifestation. Anointed One, the 1%, understand something that is both simple and profound. Your atmosphere follows your identity. Your environment, your opportunities, your connections, your elevation, these are all shaped by who you are becoming, not by what you have been. The 99% chase external changes. They chase money, platforms, validation, shortcuts, applause, but the 1% focus on internal alignment. They refine their inner world until their outer world has no choice but to respond. And heaven has been guiding you into that same reality. Every shift in your perspective, every healing in your heart, every awakening in your spirit has been rewriting the atmosphere around you. This is why certain doors you once tried to force open are now opening without effort. This is why certain people who once overlooked you now feel the weight of your presence. This is why environments you once tolerated now feel too small for what is rising inside you. These are signs that your identity is catching up to your anointing, and your anointing is beginning to restructure your environment. You are not chasing blessings. Blessings are beginning to locate you. You are not seeking recognition. Heaven is drawing the right eyes toward you. And this shift is not temporary. It is prophetic. Anointed One, another truth the elite understand is this: you cannot step into new realms with old agreements still active in your spirit. Agreements with fear, agreements with lack, agreements with shame, agreements with unworthiness, agreements with the voices that tried to convince you that you were small, insignificant, or unqualified. Heaven has been breaking those agreements one by one. Sometimes through struggle, sometimes through silence, sometimes through supernatural clarity, and sometimes through the painful separation from people who reinforced those lies. You may not have recognized it at first, but heaven has been untying every knot that kept your identity chained to your past. Think back on the moments when you suddenly saw yourself differently, when something inside you whispered, "I am more than what I have lived through." That was heaven breaking an old agreement. Think about the moments when you stopped chasing people who did not value you. That was heaven restoring your identity. Think of the moments when you felt a sudden surge of strength rise inside you after a long season of weakness. That was heaven confirming your calling. None of this was coincidence. It was divine recalibration. And here is the powerful truth, chosen one. As heaven finishes breaking old agreements, your spirit becomes free to establish new ones. Agreements with purpose, agreements with abundance, agreements with clarity, agreements with favor, agreements with divine alignment, agreements with the calling that has always been waiting for you to grow into it. These new agreements are not emotional. They are spiritual. They mark the moment when you stop praying like a survivor and begin moving like a successor. When you stop hoping for change and begin embodying transformation. When you stop shrinking and begin standing in the fullness of who God created you to be. This shift in identity creates a ripple effect in your destiny. People who once ignored you will begin to notice you. Opportunities that once passed you by will now seek you out. Doors that were once closed will begin to open because you are approaching them with a different authority. And that authority, chosen one, is not arrogance. It is alignment. It is the confidence of someone who knows why they are here, who they belong to, and what they have been assigned to carry. Anointed one, you are entering the stage of your journey where heaven trusts you with visibility, not for fame, but for purpose, not for ego, but for influence, not for applause, but for assignment. The world is about to see publicly what heaven has been building in you privately. And the version of you emerging now is not intimidated by the magnitude of that calling. You are ready, not because you feel ready, but because heaven has made you ready. You are stepping into your identity, and your identity is the key that unlocks everything. Chosen one, as we enter this final part, let your spirit remain fully open, because heaven is completing something in you that has been unfolding from the very beginning of this journey. Revelation has been building upon revelation. Alignment has been building upon alignment. Your inner world has been shifting, expanding, and awakening in ways your natural mind may still be catching up to. But your spirit already knows you are not the same person who began this path. You have risen. You have deepened. You have matured. You have crossed invisible thresholds that only heaven could see. And now the final weaving of this message is meant to seal something in your spirit, something that will follow you long after these words fade from the screen. Anointed one of the strongest truths the 1% understand is this: your life changes the moment you fully accept who you truly are. Not who people said you were, not who your past tried to force you to be, not who your wounds shaped you into, but who God always ordained you to become. And now, after everything heaven has walked you through, every trial, every pruning, every breakthrough, every awakening, you are finally ready to accept yourself without shrinking, without apology, and without fear. You have learned that identity is not found in achievements, but in alignment, not in accolades, but in calling, not in approval, but in anointing. And because of this, something foundational has shifted inside you. You are no longer waiting to be chosen. You are living like someone who already knows they are chosen. You are no longer hoping to be qualified. You are moving like someone heaven has already approved. You are no longer trying to convince the wrong people of your worth. You are embracing the truth that your value never depended on their recognition. This shift is everything. Chosen one. It is the moment heaven has been preparing you for. Because once your identity aligns with your assignment, the rest unfolds naturally. Favor, clarity, opportunity, elevation, supernatural provision, and the wisdom to steward the coming transfer with grace and strength. You are stepping into a realm where heaven trusts you, not just with blessing, but with responsibility. Not just with increase, but with influence. Not just with resources, but with impact. And impact is the true measure of the wealth transfer heaven is orchestrating. It was never just about money. It was always about mission. Always about positioning the right hearts in the right places at the right time. Always about taking the wealth that has been misused, mishandled, or hoarded, and placing it into the hands of those who will use it to build, to heal, to uplift, to restore, and to transform. You, anointed one, are one of those chosen stewards. Heaven has seen your resilience. Heaven has seen your integrity. Heaven has seen your surrender. Heaven has seen the way you refuse to let darkness harden your heart. And because of that, you will carry what others lost through carelessness. You may not feel extraordinary, but your obedience is. You may not feel powerful, but your endurance is. You may not feel perfect, but your purity of intention is. Heaven does not choose the flawless. It chooses the faithful. And you have been faithful even when no one was watching, even when the cost was high, even when the weight felt unbearable. That faithfulness has written your name on doors you have not yet walked through. Chosen one, the season you are stepping into will ask more of you, but it will also give more to you. You will be stretched, but you will also be strengthened. You will be seen, but you will also be supported. You will be elevated, but you will also be anchored. Heaven is not sending you into this next chapter alone. You will be guided by divine wisdom, protected by divine timing, surrounded by divine connections, and empowered with divine provision. And now hear this in your spirit with full reverence. You are ready. Not because life has been easy, but because God has been with you. Not because you avoided the fire, but because you survived it. Not because you feel prepared, but because heaven has prepared you. Walk forward, anointed one. The transfer is real. The timing is divine. The mantle is yours, and heaven is already waiting for you on the other side of your obedience. Chosen one, as we close this moment, let your spirit rest in the truth that heaven has already begun the transfer. You are not waiting for alignment, you are standing in it. This is your kairos moment, your divinely appointed time, written long before you ever arrived here. The same God who preserved you, refined you, and awakened you is now positioning you for supernatural elevation beyond anything your past could have predicted. Anointed one, walk forward with confidence. What is coming is not random, it is ordained. Stay faithful, stay aligned, stay surrendered to the whisper of the Spirit. Your steps are ordered, your provision is prepared, and your breakthrough is already in motion. Go in strength, go in clarity, go in divine favor. The transfer has begun. Amen.